That is. You're gonna dial in.
She's not going to.
And you can see why we did.
Ready? Welcome everybody to the regular Board of Trustees meeting for July 12th, 2022. Is there a motion to open the meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Patino, all in favor. Meeting is hereby open. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? The Pledge of Allegiance is the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under First item on the agenda is an appointment. So tonight, now, we're going to make the announcements of the new library director, Eric Carlson. So welcome, Eric. It's a pleasure to have you here. I just, why don't you come to the mic and you could just talk a little bit about yourself. I just want to come down first.
Oh, yes.
What brings you down, sorry?
So hello, I guess I don't know if I'm on the Zoom camera or not, so you'll just have to pretend what I look like. So my name is Eric Carlson. I've been working in libraries since full-time since about 2007. I started in New York Public Library, came to White Plains Public Library in 2011. I've done a lot of work with young adults and young adults at the White Plains Library. Worked with, we built a new teen area in the library, and I worked with a lot of, oh, there I am. And I worked with a lot of grants and technology to bring in to offer new and innovative programs, not just to teens, but everybody in the library. And before COVID, I was looking to move further in my career, and I had finished a professional certificate course through LIU in public library director and in administration. And then COVID hit, so my search took a halt. But of late, a lot of positions have come up, so I've been applying, and I saw Dobbs Ferry, and I was very excited because it's a beautiful community. I'm in Tarrytown, so I know Dobbs Ferry a little bit, but I know that it's a lovely community, really nice library. And I interviewed with the board. I really liked meeting with the board. They seem like a very energetic and group who's really looking to push the library forward. And that's kind of what I'm looking to do, is to see what kind of experience and ideas that I have to kind of bring more to the library and make it a bigger part of the community. And I'm really looking forward to working with, the town board, or I'm sorry, the village board, and the village departments and the community.
Well, welcome. We love your enthusiasm. We're glad to have you here, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you more of you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Take care. Eric, since you're brand new, you do have to stay to the end of the meeting.
He's not telling the truth.
Don't believe it.
Eric, you can leave whatever you feel. It's fine. So now may be the best opportunity for you. The second item, which is not on the agenda, which I'm adding today, is an appointment to the Human Rights and Diversity Committee. Tonight, I'm going to appoint Carleen Collin as a member of that committee. It's an ad hoc committee. We don't need a vote on that. I have spoken to her. She submitted her resume. The committee has spoken to her, and she's very impressive, and I think she'll add much needed perspective to the committee. So I would just like to welcome her and make that announcement tonight. Okay, let's move on to public hearings. We have a continuation of the public hearing on a local law to establish accessory dwelling units. Is there a motion to reopen that meeting? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor? Meeting is officially, the hearing is open. So I know that we've had discussions, we've had multiple hearings on this. The public certainly has had an opportunity to weigh in on it. And I think we have a proposed law that reflects the majority of the Board of Trustees feelings regarding this matter. I don't know, Laura Lee, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to add, there was a piece of correspondence that had come in advance of this evening's meeting that indicated you had removed the maximum number, the cap, which you haven't done. So I just wanted to make that clear to the public that as the law has been morphed based upon comments, that was one of the things you decided you were not going to remove. You were going to start with the cap number and then determine from there. We did respond to the county's recommendations by tightening the clarification on those standards for the neighborhood character. And you can see that criteria has been tightened in the law. And also, Valerie, help me if I missed something. There was also a recommendation that the county would like this to be an administrative decision directly to the building department, but you had hoped to keep it with the planning board to provide an opportunity for more transparency and for neighbors to receive the appropriate notices for all special permits in the village. So the major change was the clarification to the standards for review having to do with the nature of the character.
So in other words, we have to pass it by a supermajority.
You do, because you have opted not to remove the cap. You've opted not to eliminate all that language about the character of the neighborhood. And you've also advised that you'd like to keep the special permit process in place. So the supermajority is that that would be a majority plus one of the entire board, whether they're present or not.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I personally don't love that character language either, but I don't want to hold this up because I think this is really important and it's been worked on for so long by so many really dedicated people who've looked at this 9 ways from Sunday. And so I feel comfortable voting to approve it as is. I think that's something we may want to look at as being, I know comes up a lot in the codes, but I still think it's something that should be looked at moving forward.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We can certainly do that going forward. Valerie, something you want to contribute?
I was just going to note that the character language was amended, though, to try to address some of the board's concerns.
Just clarify on that.
Sure. So the original language specifically had the addition of the accessory dwelling unit shall not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood in which it is located. And in the new version that you have before you, it says during the review of any application for an accessory dwelling unit, the planning board shall consider the effects of the proposed accessory dwelling unit on, and it specifically lays out things that the planning board needs to look at. And then following consideration of these site-specific criteria, the planning board shall have the authority to impose such reasonable conditions and restrictions that are directly related or incidental to the addition of the accessory dwelling unit. And then that's where the last is the planning board may refuse to issue a special permit if it finds the cumulative effects. So it does provide additional steps that the planning board needs to find before they can get to the point of saying that they're going to refuse based on the character of the neighborhood.
And it would be the cumulative effects of that criteria: traffic, noise, congestion, appearance, site-specific factors, and it would be on a case-by-case basis. It's not just a broad, general, cannot affect the character of the neighborhood. It would be the cumulative effects on the criteria that are listed. So it's pretty tight.
Anything else from the board?
Oh, and I think we also changed at Nicole's suggestion. I took the word rental out at the beginning establish smaller dwelling units. It said smaller rental dwelling units. We took the word rental out because we do want to provide for if a homeowner would like to move into the accessory dwelling unit and provide a larger space for their family, caretakers to come and, you know, bring a family with them. So we wanted to make sure it was clear that the accessory dwelling unit can be the on-site location of the property owner.
We also tightened up the parking. Not tighten it up, but we clarified that the planning board does have.
That would have been part of the conditions, yes, the parking. If the parking, and again, it's a case-by-case basis. So if the parking is already congested, if the traffic is already congested and the street is narrow based upon parking on both sides of the street, that's something specifically that the planning board can look at as a cumulative impact.
I have a question about that also, just because I'm new here. So if someone puts an addition on their house, but it's not an accessory dwelling unit, does anyone question the parking? If I decide to put an addition on to build 2 more bedrooms for my kids, if they come back, is anyone going to say I can't do it?
No, it's
because
not
of parking?
It's not a separate dwelling.
Right, right.
unit.
So that's what I'm saying. So if the size of the house can change, but the difference is that accessory dwelling unit will have a separate entrance. So that's all I'm saying. It just seems there are people here who live in houses with 4 cars, you know, already. And I don't think anyone says they can't have 4 cars.
So the current law is not requiring any additional parking. It is requiring that the current parking still be made available. And that a parking assessment shall be made on a case-by-case basis. If for some reason, you know, the circumstances require maybe trying to add on another space onto the site because of parking, but not necessarily denying it because of the parking.
And some of the projects that have come before you, for example, on Ashford Avenue, where you were increasing the number of units, you looked at the effect on your rec, of course, and you also looked at the effect on parking and their ability to increase. And down at the bottom of Ashford as well, the property that's being renovated to change the street level commercial space into dwelling units, you looked at that parking very closely as well. Again, it's case by case.
Anybody from the public have any comments? Is there anybody online with any comments? Okay, so it looks like we're ready to move forward on this. So
I
There
just-
is one hand up.
Oh.
Just went away though.
No,
wait. So is there?
I just want to make a comment. I want to thank Valerie and Laura Lee for the tremendous job that they did and all the work that you put in on this. So thank you very much.
And also the task force
Oh, yeah.
as well.
Okay, so is there a motion to revise the zoning code to permit and regulate accessory dwelling units?
Oh, yeah, close the public hearing.
Is there a motion to close the public hearing? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? Meeting hearing is now closed. Now, is there a motion to revise the zoning code to permit and regulate accessory dwelling units in the village of Dobbs Ferry? Trustee Deputy Mayor Cassell, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes.
They have a super majority, just want to point that out.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I just also want to point out, I don't think Trustee Sullivan is she listed as being here?
She's not here yet.
Okay, so she's currently delayed and her absence is excused, and we hope to see her before the meeting is over. So that passes 6-0. Thank you, everybody. I mean, you know that Donna has thanked people, and again, I know this is a long road, and I want to thank everyone who brought it to our attention, and it'll make hope that it'll make a real difference in the lives of some people in Dobbs Ferry. Let's move on to public hearing number 2, which is a continuation on the local law amending the sidewalk opening code. Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Trustee Asher, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor. Meeting is hereby. Laura Lee, you want to tell us where we are on this?
Sure. Again, this is the revised version in front of you based upon the comments and suggestions at the last hearing you conducted. It was adjourned without comment at the last meeting, but you'll see we've added in chapter 86 where the position of superintendent of public works is defined. We've broadened that to understand that when a vacancy occurs, it would be the board's designee of the roles and duties of that individual, because right now I'll get his name wrong. I'll get his title wrong. Your chief general foreman is acting in that capacity at the moment. So upon your request, we've just added the provision in section 86-2, which makes it clear in the event of a vacancy. The other thing we've done, you can see we've made a comprehensive list of restoration standards, adding back at the discretion where something would disturb more than 50% of a road width. You have the ability to require curb restoration. And that language was added again at your suggestion. The restoration requirements and standards had been requested by the DPW. You had suggested that you'd like to have the option for curb to curb in these more impactful paving scenarios. So we've added that language at the request of Steve at the bottom. It's a subsection H, notwithstanding the restoration requirements set forth in 265. In every situation where a project will disturb more than 50% of the road, there'll be curb to curb restoration. So the standards are set for less than that, and then notwithstanding that, if it's a more impactful need, then you can have that curb to curb restoration. So those were the two areas that you had asked us to take a look at. So we did.
I have a quick question. 50% of the road, is it 50% in width or can it be 50% in length?
It's width.
Width, okay, I just.
There's no curb on either side of the lane.
Well, no, but if you 50% to this curb or, I just wanted.
From curb to curb.
From curb, yeah, from curb to curb. I just want to kind of open, but never mind.
Yeah, and it looks like there's, it's just been pointed out that there's some numbering that need to be corrected. There's 2 H's. That's completely my fault. I didn't catch that in my draft, which we can fix that because we'll have to prepare a clean copy to send up. Liz is very good about doing that. We'll declare it, make a clean copy, give it a local law number. So we'll get a clean copy over and I'll have fixed the fact that there are 2 subsection H's.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
Is Stephen here? Does he need to speak to this?
I don't think he does at this time.
Okay.
Is the public? Anybody have-
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Stephen.
Don't need you yet, Steve. We'll let you know. Anybody from the public? Patty, I guess you're the only one from the public here. So you have any comment? Is there anybody online who has like a comment? Okay, so is there a motion to close the public hearing? Trustee Rosenberg, second trustee Taylor, all in favor. Public hearing is closed. Is there a motion to revise the street opening provisions of the Dobbs-Surrey Code and provide for delegation of certain powers and duties of the superintendent of public works by the village board of trustees? Trustee Patino, second, trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor. That passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're up to courtesy of the floor. Go ahead. Patty, you're not gonna talk, are you gonna talk about parking? No. Okay, so come up.
So I would have said something earlier, but I was afraid that if I said anything before you adopted the accessory dwellings, that maybe that would change it. And we wouldn't get the vote needed.
Patty, if I could just interrupt you 1 minute, I just want to remind the mayor that we have the timer for the 3 minutes
Yes.
for the comments for the courtesy of the floor. And I just wanted to bring your attention to that as well, so you can see
Is it
that,
on?
Patty, how much time you have left.
I can't see the numbers.
I can't see it either. I thought we were gonna get a bigger time.
It appeared to be bigger. It did appear to be bigger
Okay.
online. When I ordered it, it was gigantic. And when
You don't
it
have
came,
to
it was
reset it. I'm gonna be quick.
Well, Liz will just throw something at you when it's time to.
It
Yeah.
does make a sound when.
Go ahead, Patty.
Well, I want to wait till Liz has it all set. You're good to go? I know. So I would have said something, but I was afraid it would jinx it. I really appreciate that you guys have taken that step and adopted that. I think it's incredibly important. I too really appreciate all the work that the village staff and Valerie that you guys have put into this. I still, though, I think we're gonna need to continue to the next step because we really haven't solved the major problem until we're also doing this in the MDR1 zoning district. That's where most of the apartments already exist that would fill this category. And we've got a whole neighborhood over by Walden Woods that I'd say half the houses have an illegal basement apartment that have been there for 20, 30, 40 years. So I think, hopefully when you guys get your feet under this and you feel comfortable, that'll get revisited. And I think I'm under 3 minutes. So thank you. And I'll even leave now, so you're not. Great.
Is there anybody who, okay, so before we start taking comments, I just want everyone to know that we will be addressing the parking issue later on during the course of this meeting. For those of you who do want to speak about the issue, you are limited to 3 minutes, where there's not going to be a back and forth, so you can state your opinion. And for those who follow online, please don't be repetitive. If someone has a concern about the loss of privacy due to the app, you feel the same way, there's no need for you to spend time on the same issue. You can just move on to other issues or very, very briefly say you agree with the previous speaker. Again, we're going to discuss it. I don't know how we're going to ultimately make a decision, or if we make a decision tonight. We're very cognizant of the issues. We just did not make this decision in a vacuum. We made it in public. We had an open discussion. We're very transparent about it. We're going to continue to be transparent about it and try to do what's best for the village and all the residents and people who shop and eat in our downtown. So having said that, who is the first one up?
Just remind them to state their name. That would be helpful for the clerk.
Are you ready?
Jessica Galen is up on the screen, but she does not seem to be audible.
Jessica, we cannot hear you.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Jessica Galen, the chair of the downtown committee, and just wanted to share a quick note on the parking. I completely understand the direction that it's going in. And I just wanted to share a couple of additional ideas that I've raised before with the committee, including making some additional adjustments to incentivize parking where we want folks to park and disincentivize parking where it's already very congested. And I can follow up with a note to you all, but just really quickly. Yes, honey. To incentivize business owners and their employees to park at the Cedar and Palace with a either free or less expensive unlimited permit. Create a new permit that would be, again, free or discounted to park in the Cedar and Palisade lot, putting EV charging stations in the lot, and extending metered hours downtown to 8 p.m. and monitoring them more closely so they're not treated as long-term spots during the day. I know from my own personal experience that I'm often not ticketed as frequently as I would expect to be. So I just wanted to share those ideas. I'll send them along in an email as well. And also to share, I think, that we have to do what we have to do as far as moving to this new technology. And if there is a way to include some kiosks at a couple of locations on Cedar and Main, that would be really helpful. But I don't think every single spot needs a meter. Yes. don't think every single spot needs a meter, and I've seen that in plenty of other municipalities. So thank you for your time. And sorry for the interruption.
Anybody else? No?
That's unexpected. Oh, here's one.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah,
Please tell us who you are.
Jean Greenberg.
Okay.
And, I'm talking about the downtown parking. Now, I thought that was a number 8 on the agenda, but this seems to overlap. Is it okay if I speak now, or do you want me to wait?
I'd like you to speak now.
Okay, yeah, because I'm in Vermont right now. As a business owner, I've been talking to people ever since I was aware of the proposed parking by app only, and both the residents and the visitors are not happy about it. Some have expressed that they won't come anymore. A lot of the elderly people, which are some of my customers, I own the children's consignment shop, and we work with a lot of grandparents. They either don't have a smartphone or they're not willing to put an app on it. Some people have a flip phone, some people don't have a phone at all. And from what I'm hearing, I just really think it's going to impact the downtown as far as people not wanting to come here, or they will run in for a short period of time and monitor to see if anybody's coming. I've already seen that. So I just really think it'd be harmful to the downtown. That's my opinion, and seems to be everybody else's. I know there was a problem with the meters, and I think the part of the problem is the fact that we have terrible cell service down there. I don't even give out my cell phone number to people because I know I'm not going to get a signal where I work. And I know the problem was with the meters, that they need to be upgraded to 4G. And from what I heard from the previous meetings, it didn't seem like an excessive amount of money. I see it as an investment in downtown Dobbs Ferry and the village itself. So I just wanted to let that be known. And I reached out to Paul Feiner because if the cell service is a problem, maybe there's a way we can get Verizon to make it better for all of us. So he was kind enough to give me a few names, which I appreciate. And if it's a matter of a cell tower, I'm sure we could find a place. Even the property where I live on 110, 150 Draper Lane, which is right in the heart of town, maybe there would be some way to put something there. I don't think we could use our roof because I hear it's not strong enough, but it's a suggestion. I think we really need to upgrade the cellular service, especially in the downtown. It's really awful. So thank you for listening, and I hope other people will make their opinions known. It's a serious issue, could affect the downtown for a long time to come. Okay.
Thank you for your input. We appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Consider it. It's not too late.
Anybody else?
Greetings from Vermont.
Okay. So I do want to acknowledge the board did receive a number of emails from people concerning this matter. And I've tried, and I know some of the other trustees have tried to respond to all of them. If you haven't received a response, just let me know, and I'm happy to respond to your concerns, which I hope we will address today. Let's move on to discussion and resolution items. The first discussion item is to discuss the Ashford and Storm Grant project and the budget discussion. Melissa, do you want to take the lead on this?
Yes, and if Russell Scott is online, then if you could promote him. Russell is the planner, the traffic engineer who helped the village with this project. So the village received $80,000 in grant funding, and we have several proposals that are included in the memo that was provided to the board with options as to how to address the pedestrian issues at the corner of Ashford and Storm Streets. So because the $80,000 will not cover the entire amount of the proposed projects, we need the board to do a budget transfer and to designate the additional funding that's required. So there were, if the board is opting for option two, it will require an additional $65,000. I'm sorry, option one will require an additional $65,000 on top of the $80,000 grant funding. And option two will require less. There was discussion about other options that may be less, such as the use of plastic barriers. I did speak to DPW, who voiced some concerns. I think it was discussed previously before I got here. But the issue would be that those plastic barriers would stay there all the time. And when DPW pushes snow, they push it off the street onto the sidewalks. And the concern would be that the weight of the snow and the ice on those plastic barriers may not make it through a season. So considering that, if the board wants to discuss one of the two options, the resolution will authorize the maximum amount. So if the board opted to go with option two or another option, we can continue to work on that. But Russ, if you want to go over the two options.
Sure. Would it be easy for me to share my screen? Is that okay?
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I can't hear him.
Yeah.
I thought it was just me.
No.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
No, sorry, I was just speaking a little low. I
I
apologize.
think you have to be really close to that microphone because you are coming in and out. And I just want to say for the record, you did prepare a memo dated May 2nd, 2022, which does have the listing of the options. But for the benefit of the public, it would be great if you could expand upon them.
Sure. Yes, I will do that. I'm just opening the two drawings. So. Okay, so option one consisted of, do you want me to share my screen? Would that be easier?
That'll be great. If you have pictures, sure.
Yep. 1 second. There we go. Right. So on my screen is option one. It depicts curb bump outs on the west side of the intersection and an additional single curb bump out on the east side on the northeast corner of the intersection. It promotes pedestrians crossing Ashford Avenue and along with Storm Street and Grandview Avenue. We do not have a crosswalk shown on the eastern portion of the roadway. We did not feel it was necessary. There was no reason to install, two crosswalks to cross across Ashford. So along with the bump outs, we are showing rapid flashing beacons. It's got a push button. It blinks rapidly. It has the pedestrian signs to notify the motorist that there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. And then we also have advanced signing upstream of the crosswalks. So
For the benefit of the public, can you tell us what's the purpose of having the bump outs? What are they supposed to do?
So the bump outs shorten the distance for the pedestrian to actually be in the roadway. So it makes the crosswalk distance shorter. And it also assists in calming the traffic and slowing the traffic down because the bump outs create a small pinch point in the roadway, which will force the vehicles to slow down. So it makes the pedestrians more present. And then the last factor is we're able to post signage on the bump out, which puts it out more closer to the center of the roadway so that the motorists can see the signs and the flashing lights better also.
And we were able to meet with both DPW and the fire department to make sure that all of the emergency vehicles and the service vehicles can make that turn around the bump out. So we laid it out with cones and everything was fine.
Other questions?
Well, it should be said that this is something that the traffic committee has been working on for and advocating for quite some
Yes.
time. It's great to actually be sitting here and seeing these drawings ready to get implemented.
And you want to tell us about option two?
Yes. So this is option two. Everything is the same in option two, except for the northeast corner. So The northeast corner has a drainage structure on it, and once we create that curbed bump out, we're gonna block that drainage structure. So on option one, we need to replace the drainage structure. There's a lot more concrete and there's a lot more concrete curb. So on option
I'm not sure
two.
the drawing has changed. We're still looking at option one here.
That is odd, because it's on my screen. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah, no, I
Anybody-
understand.
viewing at home.
Hold on, I think I have to reshare. because it's swapped. Option two is up now?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry about that. It was on my screen, but I guess it didn't share. So as I was saying, the big change is the curb and the sidewalk on the northeast corner. We used paver markings and stripes to delineate that area. It's no longer curb and sidewalk. It helps reduce the cost because we don't need that additional drainage structure that I was discussing, and it's less concrete. The sidebar on that is that it does not prevent the vehicles from making the high speed right, which is being experienced now. As everyone knows, if we only have paver markings there, the cars are going to drive over the paver markings, and we're going to lose the ability to slow the vehicles down for this right-hand turn onto Storm Street. We did look at some flexible delineators and some other options to create that, but as was previously discussed, snow plowing and, there's some other issues with that, maintenance, things like that. But this was a look to try to reduce the cost of the project a little bit without sacrificing the overall, pedestrian push buttons and the signage and the two bump outs on the western side of the intersection.
Okay, we can talk about it. It seems to me option one is the way to go on this.
And I just have a question. So option one, you can't because and option two, we're suggesting that you shouldn't, right? And that's basically.
Functionally, yes.
Got it.
And actually, option two is even worse in the sense that you might give pedestrians,
You might, of course you will.
No, hang on. You're going to give pedestrians a feeling of confidence that they shouldn't have if people are going to turn over the stripes, right? You walk out there thinking it's safe, and a car could be making that right-hand turn.
Yeah.
Without
this-
the physical barrier, there's not really a point to that corner.
And the safety on and accomplishing what that structure is supposed to be accomplishing, it's worth the extra money.
Jeff, do we have the extra money?
Yes, we do. That's the good news. Right there. That should have really been a buzzkill.
Should have started with that. Okay, we all seem to be in agreement on this, so so today we're going to authorize the addition of expenditure of $65,000, the transfer of the funds. Now we're going to make it known that we want to go with option one. Does that sound right to you, Melissa?
Yes.
Okay, what does that mean in terms of the timing or ultimately the completion of this?
Well, I would let Russ offer that information, but we would have to go out. We have to go out to bid, right? And this Valerie, thank you.
First step is we need to go back to the state to
Yes.
revise the scope of the grant. And then once the state approves that, then you can go out to bid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that.
About how long does that?
I'm hoping in terms of the grant application piece, I would say within hopefully less than a month to get their sign off, maybe a little bit more. But in terms of the bid, I'll turn it over to Melissa and Scott.
So can we simultaneously bid and send this out?
No, I would advise against that in case the state requires specific, criteria or language to be associated with any bid documents.
Because they're giving us the money, we're at their whim for what they require of us to follow. So,
But isn't curb bump outs a fairly common endeavor? And in that case, couldn't Nelson Pope sort of anticipate what that would be and include that in the bid documents?
Yes.
I
But
don't
we
want
can
this
certainly-
thing to happen 6 months from now. Like it's not gonna happen before school starts, it sounds like. The hearing is a month just to get the state, but it doesn't take that much work for a couple of curves, right? It could be done in a couple of weeks.
Unfortunately, in a municipality, it takes.
I
a
know,
lot
but I'm not
longer.
talking about I want to cut down the sitting on our hands part for
Yes,
a
we will.
huge
do
amount
that.
of time and just make this a priority. So, it's been like Trustee Rosenberg mentioned at the traffic committees, and as far as I understand, it's been their top priority in terms of crossing for years. So now we have a design, we have an approval, we have the funds, and I just don't want to wait until a year from now when this thing is done.
We will
I'm
move
trying to
as-
figure out how this can, and
Right, I think simultaneously, there's can be some internal work, like Russ can start on pulling together the documents, but I would advise not going out to bid until the state signs off.
It's fine, as
on
long as it's not this
preparing.
linear
Right.
process where like
Yes.
we have to wait for this and then everybody's
Yes.
waiting for the next thing.
No.
Just do what you can in
Yes.
parallel so that this isn't sitting on our.
Right, so could we prepare it and then we don't send it out, but we're ready, it's like, go.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
look, everybody, design professionals will do the same thing. There's some regulatory issues that are coming at the last minute. You just plop those notes in the sheet. So you're all ready to go to
Right.
bid. You have identified the 3 people. You've started, they know it's coming. And then our bid documents are ready. Those few comments come from the state. Put them in the drawings and then it goes out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want that to be the process and not this step-by-step linear process.
You're gonna have to pass resolutions to authorize the bidding once the spec and the bidding documents are prepared. And then you're gonna have to pass a resolution authorizing award of the bid. This is a public works project. There's necessary resolutions and steps that will need
I'm not asking you to subvert the typical process. I'm just asking us for us to work more efficiently
Right.
than we typically do. That's totally reasonable.
Totally reasonable.
All right.
So is there a resolution authorizing the village to accept the New York State Department of Transportation multimodal grant in the amount of $80,000 for the purpose of improving the Ashford Avenue crossing at Farm Streets? Where also, I have to add this, whereas the cost of proposed work will be approximately $145,000, which is $65,500 more than the $80,000 grant funding, whereas the village's share of the funding of this project in the amount of $65,500 has not been established in the budget. Transfer is required. Board of Trustees finds it to be in the best interest of the residents of the community to authorize this budget transfer and the submission of any and all necessary paperwork to proceed with this project. Is there a motion? Trustee Casal, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? That passes 6-0.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
I'll talk to you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Good night, everyone.
We should make it clear that we want option 1.
Yes, I will reach out to Russ and we'll have a conversation about it tomorrow. Thank you.
I'd like to also, if I can, just thank the traffic committee for their stick-to-itiveness on this. And Rob, you can get yourself a cocktail now.
Yeah, this is one since I was on it.
Okay, there's a resolution to submit an application for a CFA grant, to the village's comprehensive plan. We have the proposed resolution. Laura Lee, is this, you want to talk about this or is this Melissa?
It's actually Valerie.
Yes.
Hey,
We did discuss this at the last board meeting and the board did indicate that it wanted to submit these 2 grants under the CFA grant applications. So go ahead, Valerie.
Right, and they're both grant applications that we submitted last year. Unfortunately, the village was not funded, either one of those. So basically, we're just resubmitting again, and we're looking at the criteria and trying to add additional information to address maybe some of the shortcomings last year. They're both, I will say, both the parks and the comprehensive plan are very competitive grants. So, but the projects themselves do fall under the criteria of those grants, and it does seem make sense to submit and see if we can try to get some funding for your projects.
And the grant is for $75,000, so we would be responsible for $100,000.
That's correct.
Okay, so Want to discuss that before I make this motion? Are we okay with the, if we get this, paying an additional $100,000?
What we have to pay now, because we do need to go to get a new vision plan, so we'd be doing this anyway, so we'd be doing, exactly.
You did have an RFP that went out.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got responses to the RFP, but
And
then
then COVID hit.
COVID, so it was tabled. So we used the estimates, and Valerie actually responded to that RFP
Yeah.
way back when. So we used the estimates there in order to come up with this estimate.
Right, and we used, we are submitting as part of this, the grant application, the scope that was initially identified. So this particular, the amount of the funding that we're requesting would cover the scope of the original RFP.
Okay, so I guess we're all okay with that. So is there a motion authorizing the submission of a CFA grant application for the Village of Dobbs Ferry Comprehensive Plan update? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes 6-0. Discussion number 3. The resolution authorizing the submission of a CFA grant application. I passed, I'm sorry. Did I?
No, this was, this had to be added. It should be in your agenda packet.
So this is a resolution authorizing the submission of a CFA grant application for the installation of a new basketball court and lights at Pool Park. Valerie, I'm assuming you have the new up-to-date version?
Yes,
The dollar
we were
amount.
working on it today. We were working on trying to get updated cost estimates. I think right now we're recommending going in with the 2021 costs. We recognize that there might be some additional costs associated because of inflation. But, you know, in terms of timing, and I know Kendra was working with us to try to get updated costs. We have not been able to get, I mean, right now we believe on the order of maybe somewhere between 6 to 10% additional cost would be anticipated.
Okay, so the total cost would be 340, the estimate, the total cost would be $314,248.
That's correct.
And it would come to, it's a match, but we would have to put up $157,124, correct?
That's correct.
I just, like, I know, I'm not sure at what point this was discussed, but I just want to put it on record again. We are having drainage issues in that
Yes.
area. And should we need to rip up some of the park to put in new drainage? Maybe we don't have to. I just want to make sure this will not affect where the basketball court is located, correct?
I believe the basketball court is actually looking to shift location slightly as part of this project. But if warded, we would make sure that clearly the new basketball court would not go in until the drainage issues were dealt with and complete.
At least know where they were. gonna
That
be,
being
yeah.
said, you know, we can put some language and some text into the grant application that there are some drainage issues, and it's possible that this particular court would need to be, you know, disturbed currently. So it makes even more sense to try to get a new court.
Just hate to spend that kind of money.
Yeah, no, we would make sure that that's.
Any other questions for Valerie? Okay, so is there a motion authorizing submission of a CFA grant application for installation of a new basketball court and lights at Pool Park? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Casal, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Item number 4 is a discussion of resolution regarding the emergency expenditure for fencing at Pool Park. I know we have a memo explaining what happened. It's dated July 6th from Kendra. And we also have a copy of the bill. I don't know if there's any further discussion on this. How to be done.
This is with regards to the emergency repair to the Gould Park wall and the temporary fencing that had to be installed, the removal of the permanent fencing, and then the reinstallation of the permanent fencing. So the costs total $25,760 for all of that fencing.
So is there a motion authorizing the emergency expenditure regarding the fencing required to fix the collapsed Gould Park wall? Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Patino, all in favor? That passes unanimously. Next item is number 5, is where the chief of police is seeking permission to apply for a state and municipal facilities grant to fund the purchase of 2 motorcycles. So the chief is here. So Chief, we are in the receipt of a memo from you dated July 6, 2022. I just want to be clear on this. If this grant is awarded to you, it will cost the village no money, correct?
That is correct.
We love that.
Well, the one question I would ask is, as it relates to that, chief, is are there other things that we have to have that we might apply for
So-
instead?
That's a very good question. So this recently just came to my attention through a neighboring jurisdiction who have used the same grant before for vehicle purchases. So I believe potentially going forward, now that I'm learning a little bit more about this, I would like to, as the occasions occur, with the board's permission, to try to explore offsetting potentially costs on some equipment as the department moves forward. The only caveat with this is that initially, if awarded, the village would have to put out the money first, then submit the receipt, and then they're reimbursed in full through Senator Cousins' office. So I have some ideas going forward. They just need to have something in writing first. So the way it was explained to me is they would need a quote, if you will, or estimate of, say, 2 fully equipped motorcycles. From there, they would send us the paperwork to fill out for the application for this grant, which we would submit. And then if we are awarded the full amount, I would come back with a resolution authorizing the purchase. We're in the very beginning stages right now, so I figured this might be a good test case, if you will, to see if we are able to find a way to, one, update our motorcycles, and we have to ask you every year for purchase of one.
I have a question.
Sure.
I have 2 questions. One, what do we need motorcycles for? And 2, even if we don't pay for the motorcycles, do we will then have costs for the maintenance of the motorcycles?
Correct, yes. So like the rest of our fleet, motorcycles do require maintenance. With our vehicles, we do get the extended warranties out to 5 years. So what we had used our motorcycles originally when they first come in, it was twofold. We use it for a lot of events that the village holds, whether the parades, funeral details, escorts, events down at the waterfront. We were also using it for traffic enforcement. We have some officers that are certified motorcycle operators, so they would use that in conjunction with our traffic enforcement. Most people are not expecting motorcycles out there, so they work in tandem. So it was actually a very good setup that we had. Now, as the bikes have gotten older, to try to keep the cost down of wear and tear, now we're really just using the bikes for parades and escorts. The bikes were out today. They're going to be going out tomorrow. We have another event later in the month. So we do still get use, but now just trying to be smart in how they go out, because again, they are older bikes. We're just kind of keeping it to specific events versus the traffic enforcement that we have been doing years ago.
Was there, when the motorcycles came out of traffic enforcement, did that have an effect on traffic enforcement?
It does, in a way that, you know, it's a marked car or the ghost car that we do have. Again, the motorcycle was nice because it can hide in areas that a police car isn't able to sit. So there are certain areas that, you know, we may know are problematic, but it's just physically impossible to get a marked police car in safely.
My question more specifically was, do we know that when we took the motorcycles out, we issued fewer citations as a result?
The officers that were motorcycle certified wrote a lot. So yes, we did lose tickets after they stopped riding that bike.
And to be clear, I'm not concerned about revenue. Of course, I'm concerned about enforcement and
Traffic
whether,
safety, absolutely.
whether doing this would be a net positive for traffic safety.
I believe
So
so.
enforcement.
See, I think Trustee Taylor also raised a good point as far as, are there other things that you could identify that may be more useful, or if we get this grant, would that affect our getting future grants?
No, apparently, a couple of the other jurisdictions, they apply every year. Again, this is just something I found out about. So now I'm looking, I have some ideas. The problem is I don't, like say, the radio project was an idea that if I had a price tag at this point, unfortunately, they're still trying to build out the infrastructure on that. So like, I can't get that, that project submitted in the time frame because the window is opening and then will close quickly. So I don't think I would be able to get that. But going forward, there certainly are a lot of things I think that the PD could use this for. Potentially even body cameras might be an option going
That was my
forward.
next question. What's happened with the body cameras? Do you have an application grant?
We have the application, correct. So now we're just waiting to see if we get awarded that grant. If we get that grant, fantastic. We'll see how much money is awarded. Obviously, we're looking for the full amount. And if not, then potentially, or if we're not awarded anything, then I could try to see if this particular grant next year may be applicable.
I guess we have a capital budget, right, where you're replacing the fleet periodically.
Correct.
And, you know, how many vehicles are you buying next year?
This year, we have no vehicles in the budget.
Next year, though,
Certainly, again, police vehicles would be something I would be looking to see if I can get funding for through this as well.
but I guess the question is, why not apply for the grant for something that's already in the capital budget?
Motorcycles are in the capital budget.
I don't believe they're in the budget we approved.
We've been putting in for the
I
motorcycle.
know you've been putting it in, for them, you've been saying no.
The capital plan.
The capital plan is
plan,
separate
capital plan.
from the 2022 to 23 budget.
Right.
Oh, yeah, my mistake. Yeah, two different.
Well, and mine, because you're right. This coming year is, we only have a budget. We have a budget, we don't have a budget beyond, it's just a capital plan. But we are gonna be buying new vehicles. So we decided that that's prudent.
Took the money from last year's budget.
Right, but if we could use this for that.
Yeah.
That's the question. I mean, are we better off offsetting, you know, a higher
The other
priority?
question
capital
with the
expense?
cars is like Ford still hasn't opened up to 2023, so I can't get a quote on a police car. I was able to get from last year, which from last year's budget that was submitted back in May. That purchase order for a police car should be coming at some point this year. But right now Ford's not taking orders. So I really don't have any information as far as any other police vehicles that I could try to submit a grant for going outside of the Fords that we have. So the only other option would be like a Dodge. They're not making hybrids, is my understanding. We do like the hybrids. We do have the one and we have another one coming. I'd like to stay at a minimum with a hybrid going forward with Ford if possible, but they're not accepting any orders and I can't get a quote from the dealership that is on the county contract.
I don't know, I guess you're getting the sense that we're not really big motorcycle fans.
Yeah, I think there's a sense here that they're superfluous, but I
All I
think
can
that's
ask.
not, I think that that's not the case. I think that they're actually quite useful vehicles, and they have a lot of versatility, and I think it has served the department well and serves other departments well, and you know, I think it's a reasonable, particularly for a grant application.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfectly reasonable. I didn't agree that we should have taken that out of the budget as a you know, but in this case, we're not talking about committing funds. We're talking about applying for a grant. It seems like a pretty straightforward and
And there
They're-
are,
they're winner.
sorry,
yeah, that's it.
there are a lot of areas of Dobbs Ferry that are very difficult for the police to patrol for traffic enforcement. There's a lot of things that the traffic committee has asked about in terms of enforcement. And, you know, and the answer is like, you can't put a car there, or you can't put a car there and expect not to be seen from a great distance away. So, you know, I think that in terms of what Michael was saying about, you know, the versatile vehicles, you know, if it was just for leading parades, I wouldn't be interested in it at all, but it's not. It's for something that is actually a great value to pedestrian traffic safety in the village. So I would be completely for that use.
Yes,
Well, I was gonna say, ultimately, you know best from what runs the department. So I mean, I would defer to what your opinion is on that.
Thank you,
But
Mayor.
I just think, you know, we are interested in grant going forward. So I'd hate to use the money on this. And if you feel confident that we can do it every year,
I do. And certainly the more I learn about this going forward, because this kind of came to me short notice is why I was kind of added late to the agenda. But as we go forward and I have a better understanding of how it works and what else can be offered through it, certainly can sit down and talk, speak with the village administrator so we can present other options for the PD to offset costs on a fiscal basis.
Yeah, essentially, right now, you have nothing else to put in for this grant. This is what you have to put in for the grant. You've got all the information that you need. It doesn't keep us from getting grants in the future. And doesn't cost us anything.
Correct. And they
Let's debate it more.
I even asked if we had to like annually report back, and the information I got is once we get the bikes, they just like a photograph so that they can put that in their this newsletter, but that makes it easier as well.
What's the value you think of the two existing bikes? Because it actually, that would be some funds that would be found money if they were replaced at no cost to the village.
So what was the first part?
how much we get back on the motorcycle?
The existing one.
Declare them as surplus. I would hope that they are Harley Davidsons, so there may be some from 3 to 5, 2005, 2006. So certainly with each year that passes, the money we could receive back, I guess, goes down. But there are Harleys. We do keep them in as good condition and safe to use currently. We would declare them surplus if we are awarded to get some type of compensation.
I don't throw this out.
Right, I don't seem to have a resolution.
There isn't, there,
No, if we're awarded, I would come back with a resolution.
So am I doing a formal vote or am I just doing a straw poll here? Right, just seeing- Okay,
Just sounds to me
Okay.
like it's, we
Right.
can go ahead and submit, but we
I
didn't
just
want to
wanna
put a
make sure
resolution
everyone-
because we didn't have an opportunity to speak to the board in advance. And if the board was not in favor of it, I didn't want to have a resolution in here.
so I just want to get everyone's sense. So again, this is an informal vote. If you're in favor of the chief going forward with this, please state your name. Good. Good luck. Discussion number 6 is a intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester regarding Gosford police officers teaching at the Westchester County Police Academy. Chief, you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is just an extension of a current agreement we have. It'll be a 5-year deal. It's just that enables us to provide instructors to teach at the Westchester County Police Academy. And we're looking for permission for village administrator to sign off on that agreement with the county.
Okay, so is there a motion authorizing the village administrator to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester regarding Dobbsbury police officers to teach at the Westchester County Police Academy as general topic instructors? Trustee Rosenberg, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? Passes 6-0. You're also next, right?
I believe so.
Okay, so why don't you stay there and talk to us about the software?
Thank you. As we've discussed, I believe in the past, I'm not sure if all the trustees were aware of some of the discussions, but our records management system Impact has gone end of life many, many years ago. Just prior to beginning of the pandemic, I started working with Westchester County Police and multiple other agencies to try to explore shared services. We're looking to go in as a group on a brand new RMS system that would benefit as many agencies that were interested. So that has been moving along. One of the issues though with the system that is currently had been identified through the RFP that the county had submitted last year is that there is no roll call module attached to the company that appears to have won the bid. And so our old system, Impact, which does have a rudimentary system that we've been using for decades, once that system goes end of life and we turn it off, I need to have a way to, one, document and record the officer schedules, time adjustments, leave requests, as well as being compatible with the treasurer's office and the payroll system, ADP. So basically, I'm looking for permission to have the administrator sign off on a one-year agreement with Pay Scheduler. We had interviewed and had presentations from 4 different companies to make sure that we fell in line with the procurement policy of the Village of Dobbs Ferry. We liked Pay Scheduler. They seem to provide everything that Impact provides and more at a very reasonable price. And that quote they had given us was $3,200 for the year. It was also out of the three of the big ones we had interviewed, was the most cost effective. I talked with the treasurer. This would give him the ability to actually to log in and pull whatever records management he needs as far as payroll is concerned. So it's kind of what we're looking to do. This was also, we had planned for this in our 451 maintenance line in preparation at some point making the transition. So there is money budgeted for that in the PD's maintenance line.
Okay, so is there a resolution authorizing, is there a motion authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with Pay Scheduler to provide a scheduling system for the Dobbs Ferry Police Department not to exceed the amount of $3,200? Trustee Patino, second. Trustee Rosenberg, all in favor? Passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Oh, yeah, because now we're going to talk about Mark.
Get interested.
Make it interesting. There's more.
So, the last board of trustee meeting, were faced with an issue regarding our parking downtown. We were advised that sooner rather than later, the parking meters put on the 3G network would be disconnected, and we were faced with the issue of what to do to resolve the issue. We discussed a lot of options. We were faced with, I think, 18 kiosks and the cost of that, or the maintenance of the upgrading to the new system. We came up with a solution to go totally with the Park mobile app. In response to that, we did receive a lot of emails, a lot of comments from people who were concerned with going straight to a parking app. We tried to address those issues. We sent out a memo shortly thereafter, I think on July 1st, which explained how we reached our decision. Certainly was not done in a back room somewhere. We considered senior citizens, we considered the shoppers, business owners, and due to the responses, we decided to put it on today for further discussion. It's we're certainly open to reviewing decisions and see if we can make something better or more palatable. Before I go forward, though, Melissa, we did contact. Let me just back up a little bit. The number of kiosks that we were advised to do was put forward by a company that would not only install them, but would maintain them. And it could be said they had a vested interest in having as many kiosks as possible. So the chief of police and the village administrator, they are not traffic parking experts. So it would be unfair, I think, to say to them, come up with a number and decide where to put it. So in response to that, the village administrator did reach out to the neighboring villages to see how they handle parking. One of the villages gave us the name of a consultant that they used to help them come up, I think, with a plan. And I think, Melissa, you did reach out to that person today, and you probably haven't received a response
I
yet.
have
right?
not received a response, but yes, I did reach out.
So, I mean, that is an option that we could decide to just find a consultant who can tell us what a reasonable number of kiosks would be. And then we can decide if we want to go with the kiosks. We can decide if we want to put parking meters in with the old fashioned parking meters with actual coins in that, but that leads to other issues as well. So there are a lot of things on the table, and we're going to discuss it today. And we probably won't make a final decision today, but we can go forward with it. So Donna, I'll leave it to you to come up with if you want to speak.
Yeah.
Everybody will get a chance to speak.
I just, if I could just say one thing as background, Mr. Mayor, because you alluded to this, but didn't make it clear. The parking meters that are in place today have never functioned properly. They've been very frustrating to people, and they haven't worked the electronic side of it as well. And that came into our decision to not pay to be able to carry this into the new technology, is that we didn't feel it was a satisfactory standard. So I'm sorry.
That's okay, yeah. I think there are a couple of ways that we can go, and I had a couple of conversations with some of the staff members. With the kiosk, again, I don't think we need 17. I'm not a traffic expert, but considering we have Park Mobile and we have kiosks in Village Hall, behind Village Hall lot, the Cedar Street, the Oak Street lot, I'm not sure how many kiosks we would need. There was also a suggestion when I spoke to Jeff about the idea of kiosks that might just be coin operated, which would save us the fee for the credit card fee and the communications fee. So if we could get kiosks that were coin operated, that perhaps if we find out that we need to go in the future could be adopted, that would also be a way to go. The money for the kiosks, I think we figured out, depending on how many we were, if we're not paying communications fees at all, since we're doing away with the old meters, we probably could pay them off within a year or two, correct, Jeff? Depending on how many we order?
Correct.
Yeah, so, that might be a way to go if we're willing to try that.
Can I ask a question about that?
yeah.
Donna? Is if there's no communication, it strikes me that the way such a kiosk would work is that it would spit out a ticket that you got to
The
put
way
on
we
your
have
windshield.
now, yes, yeah.
Well, that's not the way we have now, right?
No,
Right now, it's just,
the kiosk in Village Hall,
they
yeah.
print out the thing and you have to put it on.
Yeah.
All right.
And then,
I haven't used one
and
for a
I
while.
understand that, people have to walk, well, then you park near the kiosk. If you don't want to walk far. And if you really want super, super convenience, you go with Park Mobile.
I'm gonna go by seniority, so then we can just be easier.
Yeah.
So Larry,
My thought would be that we look at putting back the old meter heads, which apparently are in storage, or at least examine the practicality of being able to do that. And essentially have either Park Mobile or the old fashioned meter where if you want to put a quarter in, you use that, you use that. You want to use the app, you use the app. That would seem to me to be a low cost solution, and perhaps low enough cost that it would give us time over the next 6 months or year to figure out how we want to handle it. I do think some of the neighboring municipalities that have fewer kiosks also have coin options or other options besides the kiosk. That may, going forward and backwards at the same time, if you want to think of Park Mobile as 21st century and coin meters as 20th or
Early
19th
20th.
19th century, that might be a viable solution, at least for the intermediate.
I think there is a very important, it's indicative of how far off the mark we are from rationality when we are discussing sort of endless nuances to this thing. I have been there. What about not having charges for parking? Just let people park in the village for free. There should be some kind of time limit. We would maintain some sort of enforcement. We could determine that that's, I don't know, 3 hours, so dinner and a walk through town, whatever we think that amount of time should be. I think that we are burdening our taxpayers with costs for systems to charge them to use their own, to use the things that they pay for. So I would advocate for no. If there's such an issue with the Park Mobile and there's so much pushback from the community, I would, rather than spend money on kiosks and 19th century parking meters, let's just make it free and simple.
Sharon?
Yes, I'm going to riff off that a little. Just as everybody knows, the Beeline buses are free until Labor Day. The Westchester County beaches are free until Labor Day. And while we were under the gun because the technology was going away and we had to make a decision, I think we should at least give the free parking for the summer through Labor Day, or maybe in our case through Ferry Festa even. But to do that, to give us time to explore, we may actually opt not to do that. We will be losing revenue. And by losing revenue, we may have to find other ways to create the revenue that we get from the meter. So that might be more enforcement for infractions like double parking, or if we have a 2-hour limit or a 3-hour limit there, you will get ticketed and the tickets will be higher or the permits will be higher in certain places. So I think we certainly have options to look at, and Jeff could help us with this, how much revenue we're going to lose and ways that we can make that up. But we do need to be clear that this is, it's not the biggest revenue stream, but it is a revenue stream, and everyone's very sensitive to their tax base and all that kind of stuff. But I do think that as an act of goodwill and good faith, and to give everybody the time we need to process this and see what the best thing is, whether it's through a consultant or otherwise, we certainly can have free summer parking, which will help the merchants, will help the downtown, will help the residents, and will help visitors come to Dobbs Ferry. It would be a good thing from a marketing perspective and also a good gesture of goodwill to the people that live here.
So a few things, and one, I just also want to go back in time a little bit, but only a few years. There were a lot of people, sort of banging the drum of like, what kind of idiots would have chosen meters with 3G technology. At the time that those meters were installed, 3G technology was the state of the art. 4G was rolling out in some parts of the country, but was not everywhere. So I just want everybody to understand that like nobody made a mistake. I mean, maybe we made a mistake on these 3G meters because they turned out to be so broken a lot of the time. But 3G was exactly the right choice at the time. Moving to 4G means that later when 4G goes off and 5G is the lowest standard, we're going to hear the same thing. So there is the fact that the country is modernizing, and it's just the question of, are we modernizing at the right pace along with the country, understanding that there's no way to account for every potential contingency down to, I don't want to have a phone because I'm scared of privacy, things like that. There's some accommodations that we're going to have to make. There's some accommodations that everybody's going to have to make as we become a more modern society. Technology ain't going away. It ain't rolling back. But specifically about, I generally agree with Michael that there's a lot to be said for making parking in the village free. My main concern is how we enforce time limits and what those time limits are. I've heard a couple of times you're saying 2, maybe 3 hours. Well, I actually think it should be 2, maybe 1 hour. I think that one of the things that happens after 6 is that when the restaurants really want there to be parking spaces turning over, is that spaces get filled, and they're filled in many cases to the next morning. And that sort of defeats the purpose of having a vibrant downtown with parking turnover, which means that people are coming in and out of restaurants and businesses. So I take what Jessica Galen said in the courtesy of the floor period about extending the time limit period of parking, no matter what we do, until 8 p.m. And if we keep 2 hours as the limit, that seems like a fine amount of time to go into a restaurant. But that we find a way to enforce from whenever it starts, is 8 a.m., 9 a.m., up until 12 hours later. I do want to ask the chief, though, if we were to make parking free, what are the mechanisms and what is the impact to enforcement of really enforcing those time limits?
So the mechanism we would fall back on with the writers that we utilize, we mark on the ticket writer the valve stem. It's not an exact, they'll kind of mark it based on, so that's kind of how we tell if a vehicle has moved from one space.
So it's chalking.
It's not chalking, it's just in the computer marking what position the valve stem is on the individual car.
Yeah, there's
Oh, I
actually
see.
a court, there was a court challenge to.
No, I understand. That's why I was asking about chalking.
And going forward, there's what the other communities are starting to use is the license plate readers in that same situation where they will be able to, with the GPS. So when Matt says that technology is moving forward, it's moving way beyond what we even can contemplate when it comes to parking enforcement, right? So, and I know with Larry, I don't mean to cut you off.
No. Well, the one other point I want to make is that the downside of doing this is that there is a significant revenue loss. What do we get in
What-
tickets?
what is
Something like 300,000 a year?
Yeah.
It's about $300,000 a year. So
Hang on, though, is that all the parking or is that downtown meters?
That would be meter parking is roughly 20 to 25,000 a month.
okay, so in the vicinity of $300,000.
Yeah, by the station.
So that's quite a lot of money that then, because a budget is a budget, is going to get shifted. The taxpayers are going to pay it anyway, just in proportion to their property values, right? So, and I just want to make clear, because I do find this idea very attractive, that it's going to have an impact of raising taxes. And we're talking about this right after a lot of people were really miffed about their tax bills coming due. So, every lever that you push raises another lever. I guess it's what you sign up for when you sit on the board, to hear all of the complaints whenever somebody is upset about something. But that is part of the decision that we have to make is, we're essentially taking from one pocket and putting it to another. It is no less of a financial burden on the taxpayers, is actually more of a burden on the taxpayers who do not park in downtown. So if that's a decision we want to make, we can make it, but and it will be valuable to the businesses in town. Absolutely. But it will have this effect. And while we're trying to find ways to give the taxpayers some relief, especially after the landing situation, we are now talking about like adding another $300,000 to the tax burden. So I'm fine with it as long as we're all very clear that that's what's happening.
So
I
can I
do
just
think-
ask Jeff a question?
Wait, I do want to think, if that's the way we're going to go, that's got to be done with a much more, we have to take the time. Oh, sure. Review the budget, we just can't decide tonight or next meeting that we're going to do this. That's why I think maybe Shari's way of easing it in and then.
And
then making a
reassessing,
decision,
but
right.
I wanted to ask Jeff about sales tax and tax we get from the businesses in town.
Yeah, so you got to remember though, that with sales taxes, it's shared throughout the county.
Right.
The
So,
county number.
right, so the amount of money that we're bringing in, that the village gets in sales tax, I can't sit here and be like, oh, we get it from Dobbs Ferry, it's from the whole county, so.
Okay, because I do think it seems to me from all the emails that I read and the comments on Facebook that, there was definite themes. And one of the theme was, oh my God, this is happening so quickly and we're not prepared. And whether I haven't used a quarter in a meter since 1990 something. And so I never have quarters on me, but I know some people do, but the switch was very quick for people. So if we could at least take the summer to think, reassess. We know we'll lose some revenue. We could reassess some other things. And if we do decide that that's the way we want to go, then we don't have to make that decision in 2 minutes. But I think this it would make everybody feel better about the situation right now.
Right, but are these meetings working now, Melissa, or do you, I mean, are they still working?
The meters are still working.
And do we
We
have
were
any-
advised by the company that they're going to stop working at some point in July. And because we didn't know, we wanted to make sure that we let the people know sooner than people coming in complaining that they couldn't pay the parking. So we picked the July 8th date, but they are, to my knowledge, are still working as of right now.
So could we do it as of like August 1st, do a free parking for a month? Jeff,
Well, we
how
may
much-
lose,
Immediate.
we may lose the meters in the meantime.
We could lose the meters tomorrow.
They could already be shut off, while we're sitting here.
I just hate to make a decision free without knowing, without having Jeff really giving us.
Look, Jeff, if we did it for 2 months, is it gonna be detrimental? Like, what do we pay for the meters now?
Cost us 50 grand.
So, yeah, the meters roughly bring in, with the numbers I was saying, about 50 in revenue, and it costs about $50,000 to run all those meters.
So it's costing us money to run the meters anyway, so if we shut the meters off, we lose some
Well,
revenue.
But then we lose Park Mobile. Because
Well,
you're not free, it's gonna be free.
correct. So once the meters stop communicating with the host server, Park Mobile is still there. It's still working. It's out there. So it's just a matter of making sure that if that's what we want, to make sure that message out there that
We bag the
you don't,
meters.
we bag the meters and you don't pay for Park Mobile either. It would be
But then I just want to make it clear that when Jeff is saying that the parking meters bring in, right, it's the parking meters that bring in 20 to 25,000. That's not considering the Park Mobile app revenue or the permitting.
Or the permits.
Wait. Yeah, the permits, correct. Permits are a different number. It's a bigger number. And Park Mobile is part of my 20 to 25,000.
Okay.
However, Park Mobile is also down at Waterfront now, and I'm seeing a very large uptick in revenue coming in on Park Mobile. And I'm attributing that probably mostly to Waterfront Park.
So couldn't we leave, I mean, maybe I don't know enough about meters, but if we're focusing in on the downtown and that's what's upsetting everybody, if we have a free downtown summer, but it doesn't affect the commuter parking, it doesn't affect, it's just the downtown and that Cedar Street parking lot to encourage people to go to that parking lot.
That's what I would say also. The Waterfront Park would have to still be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You could also, another option would be to make free parking just in the municipal lots. And then people could just park in the municipal lots and that would move people off of the streets. If they choose not to pay, they could move to the lots.
Yeah, we should definitely make the lots free.
But that could achieve the goal of allowing people to have free parking. But if they want to park on the streets, they could pay for
They
parking.
use Park Mobile.
That's a good idea.
Very good idea.
Yeah, because then that
Except-
forces people out.
And you would do the
There
two,
probably are some people though who are not as technologically adept, for whom walking would be more of a burden. That I'm thinking of some citizens, for example, who tougher walk from down Palisades, for example, to get the free parking. And then the only way to pay is the mobile app.
This other thing that we discussed all along in this process was a permit, like a sticker for Dobbs residents, seniors, who could then park on Cedar and Main and not have to use the app.
Right.
And they could just, they might be limited to the 2 hour, 3 hour, whatever number we come up with. So, that was always part of the discussion as something we would implement. And so I think a lot of the conversations that have come up about people who, don't use technology don't have smartphones, they can apply for a permit.
Right, but it doesn't address the issue of some people who maybe don't want the app or don't have the app and they want to get a slice of pizza, right? So they can't park in front of the pizza parlor. They're gonna have to go park at a lot that's some distance away, walk back. I'm just saying it could discourage in terms of.
It might, but I think that we're looking for a good scenario for the most number of people.
Right.
And we're gonna have some outliers who, you know, are paranoid about technology and refuse to put an app on their phone for whatever reason. Too bad. Then you risk a tip. That's your choice.
Well, we're also
You
talking
know,
about
we
15-minute
can't- we
free
can't-
walking.
Yeah, but you need to download the app and apply for that. So that doesn't address those kind. And I think there's gonna be outliers. There's always gonna be a condition that you could come up with that wouldn't work for some hypothetical person, but I don't think that's the way we should.
I think this is a nuanced issue. I think that maybe a short-term free parking. I still think, and maybe it's because, you know, I'm getting older, but putting the old meter heads back up, even if it's an interim step, keeps revenue coming into the village and would satisfy all constituents.
Well, but we no longer
Not all the
have,
constituents.
yeah, we no longer have poles for the meters on the section of Main Street. that's-
One side of Main.
Yeah, I mean, just,
Or-
so now you have to take into account, like, there's a special rule for one side of Main Street, like, it's
I'm just gonna go
problematic.
back to, let's just give ourselves time, 2
Yeah,
months,
I don't
2 months, we
I
revisit
don't disagree.
this.
I don't disagree with
Sharon,
that.
how do you feel about Melissa's idea of free parking?
I think the lot should be free, I think downtown should be free, I just think we're gonna have a free summer,
Everywhere
like
downtown.
Westchester has free buses, and we're gonna give people in a time of inflation and a time of confusion. Wow, Dobbs Ferry, I can go to Dobbs Ferry and shop and eat and do whatever and walk around and I could park for 2 hours and I don't have to pay anything, and it'll give us time to perhaps speak to a consultant and find out what the best option is for the most people. And it could be that we keep it free, and it could be that we have different options, but we're not parking consultants. And if there's somebody who's helped other municipalities and has an expertise with a village this size, with this many people, with this many restaurants, with the waterfront, then that's an opportunity for us to do, like Michael said, the best thing for the most amount of people. And there will still be people who are not happy with it, the same way there's people who don't want to walk a block or that don't or can't walk a block. And even the construction we have has taken away some of the handicap spots. So that's, you know, it's a temporary thing, but it's to make something better in the long run. So I think we should take a breath, and I think we'll all be addressing it with clearer heads and perhaps some expertise, and then we present that to everybody. But
Yeah.
this
Well,
is-
I think that's-
It'll cost the village between $20,000 and $30,000 to do that.
Well, we,
And That's
well,
a decision that the board can make.
anyway, it would be costing,
That-
but we also wouldn't be paying those communication fees. So that's, I know it's only like about 4,000, so it's going to cost us probably around 20. But I don't know about going into September. Maybe you can do it month by month. I don't know, but I think the main thing is to take a step back. These meters could go at any day now. So if we say August 1st and it goes out before August 1st, then, you know, it's free, because if the meters aren't working, you can pocket them for free.
Right, but you can't enforce, unless we're enforcing the time limit from that time. It just cannot become a place where you can park your car and leave it for
No,
24
no, no, no,
hours.
no, no, no. It would have to be free 2-hour parking.
I don't think we should say August 1st. I think we should say today, if the, you know, or tomorrow, if the chief can assure us that the
Okay.
department can enforce the time limit.
I just want to, if there's a time limit of 2 hours, and maybe Chief can answer this, how, if somebody is not registering into a meter or Park Mobile, we won't know how long the car is there until the parking enforcement people are able to go
Correct.
mark the
Right,
car.
It wouldn't, yeah, so the time's not
It'd be
gonna start
difficult, right?
until that park enforcement officer actually indicates by plate that vehicle, and so that's when the time begins.
Constantly cycling?
It's 3 blocks.
Yeah, so one of our parking meter officers is on military leave right now, so I just down to the one. So obviously, that parking enforcement officer has a lot of other duties besides being receiver, besides being down at the waterfront, restricted areas, alternate side of the street. So we do keep them busy. So it wouldn't be a continuous cycle down Main and Cedar. That would be, I couldn't guarantee that.
I'm just,
If we're talking 1 month and it's August, I mean, how many people come downtown in August.
You also have
can't
one
say
meeting in August, so if you're gonna look at this, you only have a single meeting.
Right.
If you're gonna look at this and make a determination, and this would be a waiver, you'd have to
Right.
pass that by resolution this evening, waiving with specificity as to a date
Right.
certain. Plus, you would also need to determine whether it would be a 2-hour limit or what, again, I know you have a parking permit process that allows people with parking permits to stay in one location for very long periods of time. And then you have the residents who come home that are entitled to park hours and hours, starting at 6 o'clock. So if you have a downtown resident sticker, you can, correct me if I'm wrong, chief, but you can, once 6 o'clock appears, you can take any space on Main Street and stay the night. So
I think
we
anybody
enforce
can.
it
You don't have
until
to
we
have a sticker.
enforce it. Yeah.
Seems that we want to go forward with the free parking. Is that, Mike, I just want to, that's what we
I agree, we should do the temporary free parking. I do like Melissa's idea. I would lean towards all of the Main and Cedar and the lots, but I would also be flexible if it was just for lots.
I prefer Melissa's idea, but I think I'm going to give it an eye on that. So,
I prefer Melissa's idea as well, because I do not believe that, all respect to the police department, but they're down a parking enforcement officer. And I see people looking at this as a free-for-all of no enforcement. And I'm worried that that will be counterproductive to the goal of keeping the businesses with parking places turning over. So that would be my main concern. And I'm not against the idea of doing a 2-month waiver for the whole downtown, but my druthers would be just the lots.
So I just want to say, to my opinion, I like the idea of the lot because I want to encourage people to go there. But I think I'm not as concerned if someone manages to get 2 hours and 10 minutes or something like that. I think that the ticketing, if they do catch you for longer than 2 hours, should be stiff, so that is what would discourage people from doing it. So
Then
that
we're gonna go into
if-
a public hearing about raising fees.
So if it's, I don't know what it is now, if you get a parking ticket, but
$35,
if we do this for free, then one of the stipulations is it's a 2-hour limit. Everyone's, we're trusting that they're on their best behavior. We will have the enforcement officer out, and maybe there's a 15-minute leeway, whatever. But if they do catch you, it's $50 or something. You know what I mean? It's like
We
you can't do
we can't
that.
change the fine without a public hearing.
public hearing meeting.
Yeah, that's actually in the code.
Now, if we do the Melissa program of just having except Waterfront Park, having the village parking lots for free and Park Mobile for the rest, we still have the issue of senior citizens. Where are they going to park if they can't walk that far?
And that was the discussion of the board with the senior permit. That was,
But we'd have to come up with something like tonight.
well, we need to, no, seniors don't have a permit.
No.
But we need to figure out what that fee would be.
And that's a local law.
And
That's a local law too.
we could do that for the August 16th meeting.
So again, let me just straw poll. All those in favor of using, for lack of a better word, Melissa's idea.
Ferraro Act.
There, I do have, actually, we just have another idea. What you could do is perhaps offer for seniors, if they come to the downtown, they can get a free pass for the summer so that they could park anywhere. So it wouldn't be the permit issued. I'm just going off the cuff right here, but if you wanted to have an ability for the seniors to be able to park while we're going through all of this and can consider local laws or whatever has to be done for August 16th, you can have the parking free in the Cedar Village Hall and Oak Street lots. And seniors who come, obviously they have to provide notification,
And what can be the age
identification.
for seniors, 60, 62,
I think
65?
it's 62. Is it
Gonna be
62 or
58.
65?
We're using 60 for like, that's what we use.
And then
when
they
we
can
do
get a
waterfront
pass
park.
So that it's leaving, and then that's what he's setting it.
It's 60?
Let's check that for sure.
That's
before
not,
you-
I'm all for that then.
I'll look it up now, but that's
So you
just,
don't have to look it up now, but that's a good idea.
that's another idea to
Right.
offer it to the seniors so that that way we can establish the fees and establish a permit and do that properly. And in the interim, allow them to come and have but they have to come to Village Hall for provide identification. Correct, and then we can create a pass to put in their window and they can park anywhere.
So we can do a
Yeah.
pass without having to pass a law, correct?
If you're going to be waiving fees, you can add that as a condition of the waiver program.
Okay.
It's not going to be a pass that will go ad nauseum. It's
Yeah,
just
no.
for this interim period where you're trying to encourage people to use the lots for free.
The last decision we made on parking created a huge amount of confusion. Granted, we didn't do the best job communicating it. But as a group, we just spent 10 minutes talking in circles about how this would work and permits and seniors and no, they get a certificate and this and that. If we're gonna make the parking free, it should all be free, Cedar, Main, and the 2 lots. Because otherwise, we're gonna have a nightmare where people are not gonna understand.
Yes.
Oh, if it's Wednesday
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's
that's
6:45,
That's
can I
true.
park for 2 hours for
That's
free if
true.
I'm a senior, if I don't have a certificate? It just is gonna be a mess. If we're gonna do it, let's just do it.
Yeah, you're right.
point.
Simple is
But it's
better.
Like we do at Christmas or, like just, and we just let everybody know it's now free.
Okay, so let's.
And it's a burden on you, chief, but I think it'd be a good experiment and maybe you can look into technology for a plate reader, which would be the way to manage it in the future.
Okay, so
It's
let's,
Christmas in July.
Yeah, it's Christmas in July.
so let's just go over.
Crazy Eddie.
So- Wow. So let's just do a straw poll. So now it looks like Melissa's idea is no longer the most popular idea. So
Sorry, Melissa, you tried, good try.
all those, again, it's a straw poll, all those in favor of free parking from now until at least August 31st, raise your hand.
And then we can look on the 16th, we can look at any issues that might be cropping up to decide whether we need to extend this or not.
From the chief then to see how it's going. and-
Right.
So you need to pass a resolution,
Listening,
be it therefore resolved
listening.
that you're going to waive the on-street parking fees on the downtown on-street parking, Cedar and Main, and the 2 municipal lots, one. I don't know even what this, is this 112? I don't know what.
there's side streets though too.
There's side streets
Yeah.
too, so I can't just say.
And 2
Cedar and Main.
municipal lots, one behind the Village Hall.
Can I say,
Three.
can I say downtown business
It's
district?
downtown. Mhm.
That's a business district, that way,
Let's be clear, though, too, that it does not include the
waterfront.
waterfront.
Correct.
Right. Because it's a commuter
And the
bus
municipal
for
lots,
12-hour meters.
the off-street municipal lots, not including the waterfront parking lot.
Does that
Okay.
include the meters on High Street?
Yeah, that was a
Well, see,
good point.
that's my question. I thought you wanted Cedar and Main, so that you need to determine how far.
But those
Those are
meters are
commuters.
gonna go away also. I mean, those meters are gonna
But
stop
that's still
working.
2-hour parking.
No, there's 12 hours.
Yeah, so
No, it will be 2-hour now.
Cedar, and
Yeah.
Main. That's the,
Yeah.
that's the,
That's the
that's where
business district.
residents are coming into town.
So
to do
Okay.
certain
on High
things.
Street, it will have to be Park Mobile.
That's right.
Okay, fair.
And the same thing on
Palisade
Oak Street.
There's a number of other areas that have this, right?
Side streets in the village.
So we're just doing Cedar and Main.
Just Cedar and Main, and everywhere else where that is currently metered is going to have to be,
Metered parking is hereby waived for the month of August, commencing today through the end of August 31st. With a 2-hour parking limit will remain in effect. And all off-street municipal lots except the waterfront park. And Liz, I'll get you something in writing tomorrow, I promise.
Quick
Can we
question,
also,
there are meters on Palisade Street in front of the senior center where the seniors,
If they're 12 hours, it's not going to be effective.
those are,
no, but the seniors go there during the day.
it doesn't mean you have to use it for 12 hours. It just, those
No,
are the
but-
meters that are up for 12 hours.
Right, but is it free parking?
I don't
Well-
think that those meters are 12-hour meters.
No, just some of them
There
are.
are some, yeah.
There are some,
In
but
closer proximity to the train station, there are
Right.
some 12-hour meters.
I'm just concerned about the Palisade Street meters.
Meters are gonna turn off regardless.
Right.
So
It's just a question of whether we
Exactly.
whether
Do
you
we
keep
charge-
Park
do we
Mobile
charge-
on those, or if we don't, or if we make that part of the
I just
Christmas in
thought
July
that's a
promotion.
senior issue, that's all. Or unless you can work something out with Abby.
Say all metered spots will be free. I'm worried that the people who are taking the train are gonna take up all the space.
That's not the
Palisade
meter,
Street,
not the
right.
whole meters.
Right.
Well, subject to a 2-hour time limit, but we do have some meters that are 12-hour meters. There is commuter, and we would have to do this with Park Mobile, which is fine, but down on High Street and at the bottom of Palisades, those are largely used by commuter. I'm not completely sure about the bottom of Palisades, but definitely on High Street. So that has to be a clear, that is Park Mobile still. That is still, we consider
Yeah.
commuter
That's
parking,
what you're
not part of
saying,
the
Cedar
downtown
and
district.
Main, yeah.
This is downtown. that
But you have a concern about Palisades, right? Which
But
is a
see,
valid
well-
concern.
Well, I would think that maybe Abby could give, I think she has some stuff now for the seniors. If they go into the senior center,
Correct,
they
they
get
do.
little things for the car.
they notify us. Palisade Street, actually, zone 12105 is the second most popular used Park Mobile zone in the village.
Where's that?
Palisade Street, zone
Yeah.
12105.
Well, that's the commuters.
Yes, with the commuters, it's the second most popular over the last 6 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
So we
I'm
can say the meters as marked, something like that, right? So that we can, if the meters are marked and bagged, then those are the meters that are free.
All right, so I'm
Got that,
gonna,
Vinny?
yeah, I'm gonna do my first stab at this and,
So you're waiving the parking fee for
right.
what?
Let me try it and you can correct me, okay?
Well, I just don't know what you've decided. I can't figure it out.
I don't think we have
Let me-
either.
Neither have we.
Let me throw it out there and you can, so is there a motion to waive on-street parking fees on Cedar Street, Main Street from,
Lots.
and the parking lots on Cedar Street and behind Village Hall and Oak Street from, as of today, July 12th, 2022 through August 31st, 2022. All other parking laws and permits shall remain in effect during that period of time.
We have to specify 2-hour parking in those free meters?
Yes.
Yes.
Those, and parking is limited to 2 hours. Parking any excess of 2 hours will be subject to ticketing.
I do think we should, when we communicate this to people, we need to say, while the board consider, solicits
I
additional
will
public
write a
opinion and
communication.
considers long-term parking regulation for the
They
village.
do whereas for Liz over there.
Yeah, but I mean, Melissa, I'm saying this to you too, in terms of communicating. We need to make it clear to people that this is while we're figuring longer term.
Listen,
I'm gonna ask-
I'm
I'm gonna
happy to
ask
help.
I'm gonna ask Matt to draft something circulated. So that motion is pending. Is there a motion? So that's trustee Rose and Asher, second, trustee Patino, all in favor. I'm not gonna go through. So that's
Okay.
5-1.
Okay.
So that was a waiver of the fee, the parking fee. Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you, chief.
Sorry, chief.
I hate to place this burden on you, but you're going, please relay it to your people that we
I
need.
apologize, Mayor, it's my job. We'll take care of it.
We did, if you recall, we did a similar type of waiver during the pandemic. We.
Yes,
did-
exactly.
So I have a resolution I can adapt for this purpose and it will cover as you have stated, so.
Oh, excellent. Good thinking.
That's a good idea. I forgot. we did. Okay, so let's go to resolution number 9. Is there a discussion and an authorization for a tax certiorari settlement with Marsh Holdings? So I don't know, Melissa, do you want to expand upon this?
Yes, this is a tax certiorari for the property located in the proximity of the Rivertown Square. This is the hotel. And unfortunately, the hotel was commenced just prior to COVID happening. When COVID happened, it completely destroyed the revenue of the hotel. And with tax certiorari's, there is an assessment for the value of the business. And because of COVID, the value of this business was well underserved, well below the assessed value from the town of Greenberg. Therefore, the property is entitled to a refund of their tax assessment in the total amount of $205,104.88 for the taxable years of 2019, 2020, and 2020. I'm sorry, the tax years of 2021, 22, and 2022-23. The property will be reassessed this year going forward from the town of Greenberg.
So I know that this has been subject to the town of Greenberg has been involved in this. They've been representing our interest in this. And I know the school district, which is not Dobbs Ferry School District, if I recall correctly, it's Ardsley School District.
That's correct.
Also been involved in that. And we're going to decide today if we're going to authorize the refund. So we've met with the town of Greenberg's attorney. We reviewed the facts of the situation in this case. So is there a motion authorizing the tax certiorari settlement with petitioner White Marsh Holdings for property located at 201 Ogden Ave? One must vote on this ever, but trustee Taylor, second, trustee Rosen Asher, all in favor. That passes 6-0. Number 10, to consider a request for street closure of Price Street at Hickory Hill Drive and Overlook Road for the purposes of a block party. I don't know if this takes much of a discussion. So is there a motion to authorize the street closure of Price Street between Overlook Road and Hickory Hill Drive for a block party to be held on Saturday, September 10th, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 5 p.m.?
And this is okay with the police department, yes? I assume.
Yes, we
Okay.
checked with the police.
Trustee Gonzalez, second, trustee Taylor, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Add on. So number 11 is a resolution approving the audit of claims as submitted by the village treasurer. Is there a motion to authorize that? Trustee Taylor, second, trustee Catino, all in favor. That's audit passes unanimously. That's audit number 1. I've been handed another resolution, which will become item number 12, which is a resolution to approve payment of claims audit number 2 for July 2022. I guess we only have one meeting, so we have to wrap this up. So is there a motion authorizing the payment of claims in audit number 2 for July 2022? Trustee Casal, second, trustee Rosenberg, all in favor. That passes unanimously. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've hit all the resolutions. Is that correct? Okay, good. So let's move on to the trustee liaison reports. Let's start at my left. Matt, do you have anything?
I was unable to attend the HRB meeting last night, and there has not been a traffic committee meeting since our last meeting, so I got.
Donna?
Just that there was a joint meeting of the Board of Trustees and the Planning Board for public hearing for the open air pavilion at Mercy College. And both boards did approve the site plan for that, so.
That's it. Good, Larry? I don't have anything.
The project at 72 Colonial Avenue is the board, it's the one with the position.
But they've decided not to, they've changed their plan, so there will be no sidewalk.
Right. The plans is submitted do not include a sidewalk. So we'll see. No. Nothing to report for.
They redesigned it so it doesn't need the encroachment waiver.
That's my understanding.
Sharon?
So I was not able to attend the last Human Rights and Diversity Committee because they met the same time that we did, but they have offered a position of an internship to Verity Chow, a self-identified Asian American cisgender female. It's a rising 10th grader at Dobbs Ferry High School. In the past school year, Verity was the youngest student member of the school district's DEI committee and a member of the BIPOC Student Alliance. Prior to that, she joined the Racial and Social Justice Club when she was an 8th grader at Dobbs Ferry Middle School and her familiarity with foundational DEI concepts and principles surpasses that of the average teen or even average adult. She's eager to help the committee, and they're hoping that this is just the beginning, but they appreciate Mayor, you allowing them to bring on a summer intern, and they will be working on social media efforts on the calendar for the upcoming year, so that we'll all know what's going on. And I think the beautification committee also had a meeting today that I couldn't attend because I was at work. So I'll get the lowdown on that, and that's it.
We welcome her as an intern. I'm wondering, can the mayor get a summer intern maybe? Can the mayor get a summer intern?
Answer emails.
Answer emails.
Yes.
Exactly, to answer emails.
Is there anything further?
Can I just add, I did get a text that there is still static that has been getting progressively worse during the meeting. I think that my microphone might be the worst, so I'm just gonna speak into this other microphone. But just so the public knows, we are working on it. We have been working on it since it was brought to our attention on Thursday night. We've had a team of experts in here for about 6 hours trying to decipher what the issue is. We think that we have narrowed it down to an issue with a control box that will need to be replaced. So we are going to work on that as quickly as possible. Hope that we can get a temporary one that's refurbished while they fix ours, or we can get a new one. We'll bring it back to the board if the cost is excessive, but we are aware and we are working on it.
Nothing further. Is there a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Trustee, you sure? You sure?
Yeah, he's jumping up and down over there.
Trustee Rosen Asher, second. Trustee Taylor, all in favor? That passes unanimously.
Vinny,
You did it.